This is Hard Knocks Talks.
Cesar, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thank you so much, Daniel. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So where are you from?
I am from Jacksonville, Florida, originally, and my mother's from there, and then my father's from New York. So I spent about a third of my life in New York City and in Long Island as well.
Well, tell us the story, man. What was it like growing up?
Growing up sucked. There's no point of beating around the bush or stalling time. Childhood sucked, very much sucked. And not only were those two parents from different geographical sides, New Yorker, Southerner. One was Spanish, the other was black, one was a Republican, the other was a Democrat. Both of them were aggressive people. The one side was aggressive or angry by way of verbal and intellectual disagreement. And then the other grew up in the streets, and they understood conflict resolution with violence.
You got tied in the middle of that.
I got tied in the middle of it quite often. Not only were they so opposite of each other, because I was mixed, I didn't look like either of them, so I didn't understand who I was supposed to be around. And then when I would go to their extended families, the one side would tell me I'm not Spanish enough because I didn't speak Spanish. Some of the family members even used to mock me subtly, not so subtly actually, by holding me down, squeezing my nose, and trying to make it pointy because it was too flat and round, and they wanted to make my nose pointy like a white person. The other side, the African American, the black side, excuse me, they told me I spoke too white, and they didn't understand why I listened to Jimi Hendrix at a certain age. I loved Beethoven by the time I was a kid, so I wasn't even going to tell them that part, honestly.
Yeah.
And so I never really fit in there. And then it really came to a head when I was about 4, maybe 5. I was with one parent. The other parent was gone. They hadn't been there for some time. The parents were kind of already split. And that parent who hadn't been there shows up, barges in, and grabs my arm from the couch, which was right by the front door, and tried to take me with them. The parent I was with obviously didn't want that, so they grabbed my legs and pulled back. And so what took place in there, overall, they're yelling and screaming and threatening. My physical body was a tug of war. I remember that night, excuse me. The parent I was with, they got the better hold of me. And then the first parent, the one who showed up, left. And that parent put me on the couch while I was crying. And I was sobbing and scared and fearful and traumatized and all of the things. And I look up to this parent for console, to help me, to make me feel safe again. And I noticed that they were also crying. I thought, if this person is doing the same thing that I am, and I'm feeling unsafe, then they're feeling unsafe. Then they can't protect me. So therefore, I got to be protecting myself. And it put me in accord with this way of thinking, that I can take care of my own self here. And I'm alone in this way. Nobody can help me. And to add to that, the parent that was there more often had to end up working 2 jobs to make ends meet. And so by 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and forward, I would spend hours by myself in this apartment, sometimes days, hungry, depressed, sad. So the psychological assumption was proven right by the physical environment.
When did substance use come into your life?
So substance use came into my life somewhere around 13, 14. I'd spent so much time by myself that I started making the friends that I chose to make. I can remember how many of my closer friends I had, we would talk about how their parents would hit them also, because one of my parents would hit me a lot. And another one of the friends I had was child to a single parent as well. And then another one had a parent who was quite aggressive. I was with a person, a friend, and we got a bunch of weed and we rolled a blunt and we started smoking and we're walking down the street and it was 10 o'clock at night. And all of a sudden I felt like I was in a dream and I didn't realize it at first. It
Mhm.
just sneaks up on you, especially when you don't know what it feels like. You don't know what to look for. And then finally I turned, I said, I'm high. And he goes, what? It's quiet in the middle of the street, by the way. It's dead quiet.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm high. And he goes, oh. And then we fell to the grass in somebody's front yard laughing
Yeah,
about it.
yeah.
And after that, I think maybe sometime within that same year, I found this piece of paper that was, I think, in High Times or something like that. And it was a piece of paper that just had all of the current drugs and what kind of high you get from them.
Hmm.
And I folded it up, put it in my pocket left. And then I would look at all of them and make decisions on, like, I want this one. I'd like to try this one. I'd like to try that one.
Your bucket list.
This full bucket list, and
Yeah.
again, less than a year, I got my hands on some mushrooms. Something in me hit and said, this is something else, actually. This is a deeper thing. And then I sat there and just kind of experienced what was going on here because it was something deeper. It didn't feel like I'm just being silly. It felt tribal. It felt at a deeper level. But unfortunately, at that same time, I was getting in more trouble in school. And about a year later, I got into a gang. So that existential questioning that I had from a psychedelic got put way to the wayside.
Yeah.
There was no hesitancy whatsoever. It felt inevitable. One side of my family grew up in the streets. So the gang that I was going to join, I had uncles who were in that same gang,
Mm.
different like branch, a different section of the town.
Mm-hmm.
But nonetheless, it was already familiar. And I knew gangsters. My uncles were gangsters, murderers. They were thugs, all that stuff. The initiation is to get jumped in. I got jumped in the bathroom in that school by a couple of gang members. And from there, it is making money in whichever way fits for you best and paying up to your superior and having your own money as well. I started selling drugs and that took so many steps. And you're walking around with drugs on you. Just for me, every moment felt like, okay, cool. Your ratio of risk versus reward is so different because you always got drugs on you. You have to go get drugs as well. Like you're opening yourself up to so many things. So instead, I started selling guns, and that was easier to like put guns away. Yeah, I can meet you at this time. We'll do that. Sell the gun, and then it got even easier because I could just start robbing people as well. And robbing people is even easier because you get caught with money on you. It's just money. It's not illegal drugs. You're like, oh, I made this money from whatever. I made this money from mowing a yard. I could just lie through it.
Mm-hmm.
So robbing got even easier, especially when you are quite aggressive in your demeanor, especially when you know what scares people. You just lean into that. Most people don't like to be looked in the eyes
Mm-hmm.
for long periods of time. You just look them in the eyes while talking, people get nervous already. And then you lean into that part. I'm not a big guy, and especially then I really wasn't a big guy. It had nothing to do with my size though. It had everything to do with my demeanor, how I approached. It's just a lot easier to rob people in that way.
Mm.
And so the money I made was good money, like a lot of money. And I'm 15 years old. I'm 16 years old. I also got arrested for, here we go. This is kind of to my point. I got arrested moving drugs from one city to the next. I got caught in between, got pulled over by cops and the car got searched and they found drugs and so on and so on. And I was 15 for that. By this time, I was drinking heavily. Hennessy was my drink of choice, straight out of the bottle. That sort of abuse was a self-loathing, and all of this was self-loathing. I have pictures of me that I look at now when I was in a gang that I could see my face as a malice and a snarl and as an aggression in my eyes. But
Mm-hmm.
really, I'm just scared. I'm fearful. I'm
Yeah.
isolated. I'm lonely. I'm not tough. I'm just angry.
Yeah.
So I got into this gang fight once where it was a pointless one, but these two guys had problems with each other and we all met. We decided to meet in this abandoned parking lot. It's between a movie theater and a steak and shake. It was just this big lot that was just Nobody was using it. So we were like, let's just meet there. And we got in this big gang fight. These guys pulled up and we started going and everybody's swinging at each other. And then one of my guys pulled out a bat and started swinging at some of the guys. And another one and actually his brother pulled out a gun, put it in this guy's chest. And the guy with the gun in his chest just turned and started yelling at him, go ahead, shoot me. And in the middle of this craze of fighting and whatnot, there was a part of me that looked over and I was like, holy moly, this guy's crazy. Like the gun was maybe like a foot from him and he walked up to it and put it in his chest and said, go ahead and shoot me. And that shook me in the middle of all this fighting. Two guys tried to start breaking it up because we heard somebody called the cops and so on and so forth. And in the middle of all this arguing and yelling, when things kind of calmed down, one guy walked up right behind me and took the bat. And the same way a person who wants to chop wood, they have the axe directly above their head at like 12 o'clock straight up. He came behind me and went to swing it at the top of my head with the bat. And the member of our gang who was trying to break it up, saw it coming, grabbed it just beforehand,
Mm.
and he pushed me away. I didn't see any of that coming. You don't see any of it coming. What's the line of Sopranos about being murdered? It's like, you probably don't even see it when it happens.
Yeah.
And you don't, And so it wasn't until we left that night, because the cops were coming, we all got in the car, we split, whatever. And it put in my thought process a little bit of, okay, I've passed this threshold. I'm in something deeper here. That same night, we drove to that same city that I ended up getting arrested in to pick up more drugs. And it was like midnight or so. And the driver of the car completely fell asleep at the wheel. And we spun out into the dirt roads in the forest roads were in Florida. The car was completely mangled up and whatnot. Nobody got injured. We were all shaken up and worried. My phone was in my lap and it flew out the window a good 30 feet away. I remember looking at my phone at that far out thinking, that could have been my body. Some of our friends came and drove up and picked us up. I'm 15 years old and I'm on probation and this is going on. And I went home that night. I was exhausted. It was like 3 or 4 in the morning. And before I went to sleep, I made sure I finished that drink of Hennessy to sort of soothe what's going on. At that same time, I had fallen in love with somebody. I met her when I was 6, actually, and the first time I saw her, my whole body changed. It froze in time, and I felt like I had seen somebody that I had been knowing for centuries, for lives. At 6, I felt this emotion. Fast forward to being 14, finally her and I were together. And I'm towing this line again of something so deeply profound in looking in this other teenager's life. She's just 14. 15. I'm 15. Same age. I don't know that she felt the same things I felt, but I felt it. And I'm balancing this other life because she wasn't in that lifestyle. She was actually a straight A student. She did really well. She came from a good family. My parents were still together. She was from Europe, blah, blah. The next year when I was 16, her family decided to move back to Europe and they left. And she said, when I turn 18, I want to move back here. So I proceeded in saving up as much money as possible, doing all the stuff I was doing to make money. Because I was on probation, I started working at a restaurant job as well to try to get off probation sooner. And my free time is still drinking. Didn't smoke anymore, just drinking heavily. And then for 2 years, I got off probation. I was in another gang fight that, like, we did not win. Like, we just got the crap kicked out of us in so many ways. And I survived that though because it could have got worse. The guys we fought were they were European as well actually, and one of the guys with us was European, and he heard them say to about me. Um, he said, "Let's take the N word talking about me inside and let's stab him up." And when he heard him say that in their language, he was like, "No, no, 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 no. He didn't know we were supposed to come here, and I just brought him here, and he's standing up for me. Let him go. Deal with me." And they actually let me go. And I went to fight back, and my friend was like, "No, no, you need to go. You should leave." So then I left. It turned out that their parents knew each other, and they got some sort of cultural rule about not harming somebody whose parents know each other, whatever. And we recognized that, and he saved my life between getting off probation and surviving that. And then members of my gang went to jail, and then some got really religious, and then some died. There was kind of like the queen bee was killed, and like we're all kind of scurrying around, not sure how to make order of our set anymore. And I took that as an opportunity to kind of just slowly fade out. And I
Mm.
stayed home, and I picked up a guitar and tried to teach myself. But the drinking still showed up, of course. I already had loved Jimi Hendrix, so I picked up the guitar and started teaching myself by listening to his music. That was the main self-reflection. Everything else was, once the aggression goes away, once you're not able to express that aggression externally or you're choosing not to, anger is a secondary emotion.
Mm-hmm.
So so it is a projection of a primary emotion. It could
Fear.
be fear, it could be self-loathing, it could be sadness, it could be whatever. Typically fear though. Once that anger wasn't served, then the self-loathing turned back in. So I started drinking more. And then by the time I turned 18 and that girl that I was in love with turned 18, I told her I have enough money to move you back to America. And she said no.
Mm.
She said, I don't feel it anymore. I'm not coming back. And that really broke me in that moment. I grabbed the stuff that I had saved up of hers and I's, scrapbooks, photos, her clothes, a ring. And I went to the park that we used to go to that was a walk from her place where she lived. And I grabbed a couple of bottles as well. And I went to this park, and it's 11 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night. And with my bare hands, I dug a hole all the way down into the ground, about as low as I could stick, like up to my elbow, right next to this tree. And the tree's root, I finally hit a piece of a thicker root. And I kind of pulled the root up, stuck all that stuff under it to kind of fasten it down, to bury it, and then covered it back up, sat by the tree, and just drank. And I was there for a long time until those bottles were done. Drank and cried, drank and cried, drank and cried. I had been left by my parents so many times. I had felt isolated so many times in my life, and I gave myself to somebody. And I wanted to make this change. And then she leaves me also. The same thought that came up when I was 4, the same thought that came up when I was 8, the same thought when I was 12, 14, 16. By the time I'm 18 years old, the same thought keeps showing up. Why doesn't anyone love me? Why doesn't anyone want me? And I don't even like being here. I'm just going to do whatever the hell I want to do until I'm not here anymore. Drinking came. I became a very strict atheist in the sense of if projecting my psychological isolation. If I'm alone in this world, then I should probably be alone in this universe as well.
Mm. That's heavy.
It's yeah. The more I think about it, when I think about my 18-year-old self saying, "Well, I'm an atheist now," I'm like, "Oh, you poor boy."
Mm.
I just want
Yeah.
to hug him, want
Yeah.
to kiss him,
Nothing's
I want to
here.
hold
Nothing's
him.
out there. Nothing's anywhere.
Yeah.
And it's
Nothing's
interesting that you
anywhere.
said like I'm going to do what I want, and what you thought you wanted at that time was drugs, was alcohol. Like that's what I want to do.
Precisely.
Isn't that interesting?
It's interesting in the sense of that it's it's the absolute version of escapism.
Yeah. You just wanted
My
to
pe-
feel
my
better. Like, that's what you
yeah,
wanted.
and I didn't have the means to do it. I didn't understand which way was the best way. Nothing seemed convincing except the quickest fix.
Mm-hmm.
Around that time, I did go to therapy for a bit, and I didn't chart if that was the best way to do it. I think I went for maybe, I don't know, 15 sessions or something, and I stopped
Mm-hmm.
going. And I just kept drinking. And then I started being highly promiscuous. Started sleeping around with any and everybody, putting ads online, just sleeping with any person, regardless of gender, regardless of way of living, whatever. Multiple people in a night as well, just being highly unsafe while drinking and driving and just being this way.
Like, is this like you're working, or this is just something that you're doing?
Oh, I don't think I started working by that time. I think a couple years later I started getting paid for it.
Mm.
By the time I was 18, I didn't yet. It was just going out just to do whatever,
Mm-hmm.
in the most unsafe way possible. There was one, I have this memory, it'll be burned into my brain for the rest of my life. It was like 9 o'clock at night. I was drunk. I went online, met somebody, drove over to their house, slept with them, no protection whatsoever, went back home, kept drinking, went online again, met someone else. By 3 a.m., went to their place, no protection whatsoever, drove back. Drank at their place too, by the way. Drank at my place again. It's now 4, 5 in the morning, and I met another person, and I was wasted by this time, but with enough energy to want to meet someone else. This image I'll never forget. I pulled up to their house. I was drunk, for the most part, blacked out because I don't remember anything else. But what I do remember is I pulled up to the car, I pulled up to their house, got out of my car. I looked at their front door because it was dark out. I could see the silhouette of the light inside their house, and I could see their body silhouette. I couldn't get a full gauge on who it was, but they were standing there waiting for me. And the thought came to me is, this could be the last person to see me alive because I don't know who this person is. And I went in anyway.
Mm.
I have no recollection of what happened. Zero. But I woke up the next day like 10 a.m., 11 a.m., and I missed work. That sort of living kept happening. Still was able to save up enough money. So 2 years later, by the time I was 20, I bought a house. This is in 2010. This is during a time when the housing market had crashed and it was at the bottom. And the president at the time, Obama, put in these uh, first-time home buyer incentives. And so I took advantage of those at 20 and bought this house. I went in there thinking, this is a place for me, finally, my own place. I could be by myself, and maybe there's some solace I could take in that. But it didn't. It just increased everything I was doing. I mean, imagine being 20 years old with a house. It's really easy to get laid that
I
way.
was I was I was 26-year-old with a house, and
Right,
yeah, that
right.
changes everything, man.
It changes everything. You got
Mm-hmm.
all of these things. You got a mortgage. You got to deal with all this stuff, and as
Mm-hmm.
as freeing as it felt, it was also very shackling. What's the line? The things you own end up owning you. And I didn't know what I was doing. I wasn't psychologically prepared for that. I still was so traumatized and depressed. So it just got worse. And then I started doing sex work. Guys would come over and pay me, or women would come over and pay me for stuff, or I'd go to their place. And I worked at a law firm by that time as well. So I'm making good money, but still not being the best version of myself. And I'm playing shows as well because by this time I was doing quite well as a musician. I was on a local morning program in Jacksonville, Florida called First Coast Living. You can actually pull this up on YouTube. First Coast Living, Cesar Cardona, and you can see me performing. That person you're looking at there was a heavy drinker and was selling himself and was sleeping with any and everybody. And I did that show and it got me some good notoriety in the city. And the main thing I was thinking about was like, well, this opens me up to getting laid more, which as a 20-year-old, that's, I think I was 21 at the time. As a 21-year-old, that's not surprising.
Mm-hmm.
But with what was under me as a person, what was cooking inside me, highly flammable, highly dangerous.
Yeah.
There was no barometer for me. That went on for about 4 years, that sort of lifestyle, just sleeping with everybody and everything, and drinking, a lot of drinking, just so much drinking, my gosh. Those traumas with me, as well as the relics of the city that I grew up in, all of the trauma given to me as a child and all the trauma that I gave as a teenager, are at every street corner that I lived in that city. Everywhere I went was a memory of something that happened to me or that I had done to people. And it sucked. So then I go home. And I go home, and the woman that I love is not there. I would imagine her some morning just walking down the stairs saying good morning to me. So I packed my stuff up after about 4 years. I rented out my house, loaded my car, and drove to Los Angeles, California, which is a little under 3,000 miles away. And yet again, I thought, okay, I can start my life here. I can find some solace in this place. I'd never been here before. I didn't know anybody. It's blank canvas. So for about 2 weeks, I slept in my car. But in about 2 days, I already went online and met some guy who was going to pay me to hang out with him and sleep together and all this stuff. It wasn't long before I met a notable public relations representative who deals with a lot of celebrities, who offered to pay me money to go to his house, do a bunch of coke and drink a lot, and then invite guys over to sleep with him in like a big group orgy. And because I was very muscular at the time and I'd been taking boxing, he would tell me when to tell them they should leave because they wouldn't push back against me because of my size and how I was. You guys get out of here. Okay, next, you guys, hey, who are you? Nice to meet you. You want to come over? We got this, we got that. And that that turns into a reward system. This is 2016 by the time I'm 26 years old. This is a reward system for me. I'm also playing shows as a musician here. I worked at a restaurant, and I got certified as a boxing trainer, so I started teaching physical fitness and boxing. So I'm juggling all these hats while still just suffering an addiction. And that same atheist of like, there's nothing here, so just do whatever. And by this time, the quote I would say often is, I don't even like it here. I'm just here till I'm not. And that's when Coke really started to take over my life. I would clear out whole 4 days out of the week, Thursday to Sunday, straight bender. No sleep, just constant going. And you meet other people like that, like everything in life, whatever you put out, you'll find yourself in those circles. So we got more and more. And I started dating a woman who was, in a sense, enabling a lot of that because she had her own traumas as well. And I don't blame her for it. I don't blame anybody in my stories for any of this stuff. Trauma is homeless. Their trauma they got from someone else, and that person got it from someone else and someone else. Trauma is homeless. It just moves from one vessel to the next to drink up all the juice out of the fridge, leave the toilet seat up, and leave all the lights on. And then in 2018, I was 28 years old, and I woke up completely sober. And unlike a usual Saturday, I didn't drink anything. I didn't do anything. My partner and I went out to an ultimate frisbee game, and it's a family-oriented game, so there's no alcohol allowed there. And we are clear as can be for a rarity on a Saturday. And then a friend of ours says, hey, we're at this bar. Do you want to come hang out? And we don't really like that bar in particular. We even decide to maybe not say no thanks. But we're like, you know what? They asked us, we should just go hang out with them. We're in line to go into this bar because the bouncer's checking IDs and they're only letting in a certain amount of people at a time because it was packed. And even in the line, we're saying, we should go home. I don't really like it here. We shouldn't want to be here. We've had a kind of a chill day. Sober as can be. We go in there anyway, and we just have a couple drinks, not much. And we are standing next to this woman that we just sparked up a conversation with. And then not too long after that, she turns to us again to get our attention, and she kind of gives me the eye of like, help me, give me a hand here. Because there was a guy who was kind of like being icky to her. She wasn't interested in him. And it wasn't a scary help me. It was like, hey, this guy's being one of those dudes. Let me, give me a hand over here. So we did. We walked over, we put our arms around her, and we were like, hey, she's a friend of ours. We're together. Thanks for your time, man. Go ahead and get on out of here. He didn't like that, so a pushing match started. And after the pushing match, people broke it up a little bit. And my partner and I decided we should leave. We're like, let's get out of here. Let's go. While we're walking out, he went and got about 4 of his other friends. They followed us outside and jumped on us from behind, knocked her down, held her down, and then the other guys, started punching and hitting me, excuse me. I fell to the ground, tried to get back up. They pushed me back down. I am 5'10". At the time, I was 165. One of the guys was 6'4", 6'5", 220. So they pushed me back down, and then they started kicking and stomping on me, and eventually knocking me unconscious. And when they knocked me unconscious, they still continued to kick and stomp on my face, my head, and my body. My partner at the time, the one who was there, she said, I had to watch you get kicked around like a rag doll. They fractured my eye socket. They fractured my nose. The 4 front teeth, they completely knocked out of my head. The bridge above my teeth, the bone that's behind your top lip, shattered. The front tip of my tongue was hanging off, and the ambulance had to cut it off with some sort of medical scissors, or scissors from Home Goods, who knows, I don't know. And from kicking and stomping on my torso, they punctured my bladder. Now, I have no recollection of any of this. I remember a bit of putting my arms around the woman, telling the guy, hey, she's with us. I remember a little bit of his face being upset about it. And then I have a faint memory of my head picking up off of the ground, tasting all the blood in my mouth, and then something telling me, go back to where you just came from. It's much better there. And I went back under. And then I have a faint recollection of being really angry in the ambulance, yelling about something. And then I woke up after surgery. I woke up out of surgery. The nurse was there and told me what happened. And I immediately turned to her and said, I'm dead, right? She said, no, you're not dead. You're at this hospital here. And then I said, could you do me a favor? Could you just kill me, please? Please just kill me. She said, no, of course. And I said, please, I beg you. I've had a long life. I am tired. I remember saying that, and I remember wanting it so bad. I just didn't want to be there anymore. All the times that I had done drugs, drinking, and a bunch of other horrible stuff, somehow I came out unscathed. But the big moments in my life would happen when I had the better intention. And it felt like a lose-lose situation. So she didn't permit me my request, of course. And from there, what happened was a long healing process for me. I had to learn how to walk again because they cut me open and stitch closed my bladder. Had to learn how to talk again. And there was a moment thinking to myself, this is what a baby must feel like, because I'm having to learn how to walk, how to talk, and I'm being fed. My body was so much pain. She'd have to wipe me sometimes. I needed help showering. It didn't take long for me to keep using, because now I'm in so much pain, physical pain. And I couldn't work as a physical trainer.
You embraced
I
it.
had no teeth, and I'm still going to the bar. Like, I was symbolically that person. Look what happened to me. I'm still just a fool.
Mm-hmm.
Still, and anyone listening to this, I'm sure recognizes it charts. I'm still just masking.
Yeah. So, what was it that finally brought you into recovery?
The assault happened in the summer of 2018. By December of 2018, I was close to losing my house, and I was just really addiction driven. I started doing Uber Eats because it was a way for me to make a little extra money while trying to grow my clientele again, which was hard to do because my face was all jacked up. My body hurt a lot. When I first moved to Los Angeles, the first week I was sleeping in my car in North Hollywood. And in North Hollywood on Lankershim, in this place called the Arts District, there's a big Jimi Hendrix mural, black and yellow, painted on this brick wall. And if you Google North Hollywood Arts District Jimi Hendrix mural, you'll see it. Black and yellow, and he's got his hands on his hips, and he's kind of just staring at you. I first moved here that week. When I got to LA looking for apartments, I stumbled upon it, and I thought, oh, this is where I need to be. Finally, because I love Jimi Hendrix. Fast forward to 4 years later, I'm doing Uber Eats, and I end up delivering some food to a place in North Hollywood. And I go over to that mural again. And this atheist, who doesn't believe in anything mystical, unknown, anything outside of the practical, starts talking to that wall and says, Jimmy, you are the reason why I've done anything good in this life. You're the reason why I moved here to be a musician. You got me here. What am I supposed to do now? I'm lost. What do you want from me? You have to help me with something, because if you don't, I'm not going to see the end of next year. About a block over from there, a little more than that, a couple blocks over, there was a Buddhist center there. And I stumbled upon it again. I stumbled upon something, excuse me. And I made a note to go there the next week.
Why?
I came here for this thing, and I'm doing this other thing. So all these patterns and choices, I needed to sort of shake something up and say, let me walk into this Buddhist center. What's more, and this is, now I know this was straight ego, but what's more is that I knew that you could be a Buddhist and still be an atheist. So it was me trying to preserve who I was while still getting something new.
It's a
That is,
soft step, a soft start.
you're right. You are such a soft step.
Thanks, Jimmy.
And it's, yeah, truly. Thanks, Jimmy. He's like, yeah, brother, just try that Buddhist center over there, man. Yeah.
Go jam out over there.
Yeah, you got it, brother. Yeah, check it out, man. Yeah. So, so it's cosmically ironic and cosmically humorous. The hubris of our psyche, especially our ego. Our ego thinks that it's in control. It is not in control. At the moment you decide it's not in control, it is going to scramble and do whatever it can to save its existence. And that's fine too, because you still got to eat and look left or right before you cross the street.
I mean,
that's still ego.
I mean, in the big, like, hubris of life, as you say, I mean, okay, that's fine, but that realization, that shift when you start to move away from ego and it's trying to hang on to you, that's painful and it's scary. It's like putting down the drugs. You know, it's like it's
Absolutely.
a whole new life out here where you are no longer at the center of it. Like I'm 9 years in and I still very much struggle with fear of the unknown. Do you know what I mean?
I 100% know what you mean. And I will say to you, I know you know this, and I'll say to you listening as well, I know you know this also, but assume that the mystery is always going to be fearful.
Mm.
Just assume it. Know it, dip in, that's that. I live in
Mm-hmm.
Los Angeles for 11 years now. The first day I got here, I expected traffic. Seldom do I worry about traffic because I expected it. Expect the mystery to be a little fearful. And then
Mm.
now you can do it anyway. Because I
Yeah, yeah.
guarantee you, on the other side of that fear is the best version of you waiting. Do you know the word monster, etymologically broken down as three different words? It's monstrum, monet, and monier. It's broken down etymologically from the historical context. When you put them together, it means to remind you to think about the divine omens that are out there and in here. Now, we spend a whole society looking at the monsters out in the world: CNN, the news, politics, cell phone, social media, the person next door to you blowing the leaf blower for time and time again. Whatever, we do that constantly. But how often do we turn and look at the monster that lives within us? That's the real mystery we should be diving into. Why we are scared of pulling away from the ego. Why we are scared of saying, you know what, I could be wrong. Maybe there is something greater out here than myself. That's where we should dive into first. Because I promise you, and I've seen it a million times as a public speaker and as a meditation teacher and as a boxing trainer as well. In my life and in my family's life and my friends' life also, I've seen it time and time again. The moment you turn and face that thing, the moment you realize it actually is just a demon that is turns into an unheard angel. Every demon that lives within us is just an angel that feels unheard. And they will permit you the greatest boon of your life, which is the best version of you waiting to be found. And it is just behind that inner monster. And I mean just behind it.
Mm.
So I and so I didn't battle the monster, but instead I turned to it and said, let's let's hear this one out. Instead of saying, instead of the monster being behind me talking in my ear, and I'm like, yeah, you're right, you're right, you're right. We should go out there and show the world who I am. Instead, I turn around and say, you know what? Let me see what you look like. And when I turned around, I realized it was about as tall as my ankle. Just has a very loud voice. And then I can get down to one knee and say, okay, tell me what you're really saying here. So to bring that into more practical story sense, I went into that Buddhist center and there was a service that they gave. And people are sitting in a circle, kind of talking. And the person who's heading that meeting, that service, brings up a celebrity, a very known figure that everybody knows, that is a very divisive figure. This public figure speaks a lot, and majority of their words are aggressive and divisive. I get myself ready to lean in on making snide comments like everybody else usually does. And I'm ready for it. And this man says, that's hosting this service, he goes, that poor celebrity, he must be suffering inside. And to my knowledge, I never saw somebody match anger with compassion. I'm sure I saw it in my life, but I wasn't looking at it. I wasn't looking for it. And it struck me to realize their anger doesn't have to be my anger. I saw somebody handle something a little differently. And that was all I needed to say. All right, I got to learn some more about this Buddhist thing. So I bought some books and started practicing. In Buddhism, to bring it back to substances, Buddhism, there are 5 precepts. Western culture, we have things like commandments and whatnot. It's not the same.
Hmm.
Commandments are like laws. Thou shalt not. Those are laws. Those are concretized laws. That's not what Eastern cultures are, especially Buddhism. Buddhism lets you know that you will inevitably get to this place of peace in this life or the next or whatever down the line. If you want to get there quicker, remove these things. If you keep these things, you'll slow your process down. They are profound suggestions. The 5 precepts, the 5th one in particular, is no intoxicants. And again, guidelines. I was taught meditation and I spent a lot of time with monks, and they've told me verbatim, what you do with your precepts is yours. We can't tell you what to do. And it's not up to us to try to judge you for that either. That's actually that's counterproductive of being a Buddhist. I saw that one and I realized that's going to be a hard one for me to do. I like drinking. And I was using less and less, but I was still using a good amount. This is 2019 by now. Months going by, I'm learning to meditate. I'm reading all these sutras. The Buddha became enlightened at 35, and he passed away at 80. And so Cuz was just spending that whole time period just talking. I mean, he's a monk. He's got nothing else to do. We're just gonna just shoot the breeze with everybody, you know. He's got I got some more cool information. Y'all check it out. Just mic drop, mic drop, mic drop, right? And this cat he's full of these wise things that are just so precious.
What were some that stood out to you?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked that question. One of my favorite things, and I say this one the most because it really appeals to the Western way of thinking. It appeals the way of Western thinking because it shows that a leader can be the exact opposite of what we think leaders are supposed to be. There's this sutra called the Kalama Sutra. The Buddha goes to this place called Kalama, and he gives a talk in this like tree forest area, whatever. And this lady raises her hand and she says, "You know, we have sages that come and go all the time. They come here and they tell us the way, that they found the way. And now you are here saying the same thing. How do we know you're right versus what someone else says?" The Buddha turns to her and says, "Don't take what I say as truth or law because I say it. Apply it to your life. If it brings you peace, keep it. If it brings you peace externally as well, keep it. If it doesn't, disregard." That knocked my socks off because you have a leader saying, "Listen, I just am expressing this. You got to practice it. Don't take it just because I'm saying I'm holier than any of these people. I found this in nature. I'm sharing it. If it brings you peace, keep it. If it doesn't, disregard. Disregard." So it's rooted in peace. That's your one barometer. Does this make me feel calmer and clearer, inward and outward? Simple as that. The Buddha also says to go to a shorter quote to be more practical about it. He says, "Seek refuge in the self. Be your own lamp." He also says that the seeker has to walk the way. The Buddhas, we just point it out. These are beautiful things to say. These are implications that you already have what it takes instead of going somewhere else. In this society, all the joys that we look for are external. We need the drink, we need the party, we need the vacation, we need the cruise, we need the shirt, we need the iPhone, we need the this, we need the that.
Cars.
Those are beautiful
Cars.
things. The cars,
The boats.
we can go on the boats.
Sorry, I'm just putting my little personal spin on it here.
Absolutely, give me as many as you want, man. And these are beautiful things, but they're secondary, and they're a distant second.
And
they're a distant second.
I've been through enough to know that they're not the solution.
They're not. They're not the solution. They're very nice. We live in a great time right now. As much as people want to disagree, these past 150 years are the most progressive, dynamic, privileged than ever. 150 years ago, we couldn't be having this conversation, not just technologically, but race-wise. The ability that we have of hot water is phenomenal. Technology, phenomenal. We are thousands of miles away, my friend, and we can have this conversation for as long as we want, not worrying about storm, war, a lion eating on you or eating on me whatsoever, a tribe coming. None of those things, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
It's a beautiful thing. And it's secondary because it's got nothing to do with the lamp that you should be upon yourself. Because when you find that, it's profound.
Wellness News Choice for Healthy Living is a local resource that works to connect people to health and wellness related products, services, and expert advice from industry professionals, locally allowing us to connect and engage. Check out wellnessnews.ca or skwellnesshub.ca today to learn more. If you'd like to see our content uncensored, we are now offering channel memberships. There is a lot of things we can't show you without getting restricted, so if you want the full conversation or to check out our merch, or if you want to show us some love and buy us a coffee, all of those links are in the show notes below.
So I spent my time investigating the nature of my mind through meditation and daily watching of my thoughts. I had spent my entire life identifying myself with my thoughts and therefore my feelings about my thoughts and therefore my actions about my feelings and my thoughts. I identified with those. I thought that's what I was. And when I started meditating, I realized, oh, those are temporary. Oh, they were either given to me or I picked up them somewhere in the world, but they're temporary. Because what I believed at 5 years old to 15 to 25 have been different. They're temporary. So then what am I? I realized I was the awareness of them all. I wasn't my thoughts, my feelings, and my actions. I was the awareness of each and every one of those, and that is eternal. Your thoughts change over time. Your beliefs about the world change over time. Your skin, your hair, your taste in music, your best friend, your worst enemy, the things you love, the things you hate, all of it changes. But I tell you what's been the same, you being conscious that they occurred. That's eternal. And that consciousness, your actual consciousness, is silent, formless, soundless, tasteless, shapeless, never tires, by the way, is always available. And even when you're in dream, you're still conscious, even though you can't take a lottery you win in the dream into your waking life, and you can't take this laptop into the dream life, but your awareness goes to both. And then when you're in a deep sleep as well, and this is going to get really heady here, so excuse me if it's a lot. When you're in a deep sleep and I wake you up, you were conscious because you woke up. That is an implication that deep sleep is not the absence of consciousness, but the consciousness of absence.
Whoa.
Dude.
That's gonna be
Dude.
that's gonna be a reel. It's gonna be funny.
Dude, it's nuts. It hit me one day. I was on the 101 in LA and I was driving in traffic, and like a literal filter in my vision pulled up, like washed away, and everything looked different. I mean, I don't know if you can see it, but I have goosebumps right now.
Yeah, I can see it.
It changed everything. The filter, like it's like it was raining on your windshield and the wiper blades come and wipe it clean. It was like that. It was a relief. It was removing something. And I saw that, again, you are a conscious being. And in that moment, and I'm not saying this about myself, but the word nirvana that we use, like that blissful whatever state, nirvana is Sanskrit. It translates to extinguish, to blow out, like to blow out, right? That implies that sort of bliss is the removal of things, not a destination. It's removing things like the fire of anger, extinguishing the fire and burning of rage. So in Buddhism and meditation, it's not about where you go, it's about what you remove. Because when you keep pulling these layers back, you find the jewel of who you are already there. It's already there. And when I could separate myself from the thoughts, feelings, and actions, I pulled those back. I had been taking on rage, anger, fear, sadness, depression, self-loathing, isolation. I peeled them all back. I didn't throw them away either because they're worth working on. But I peeled it back because I realized it's not me. and the jewel of my conscious awareness started to shine. And I started finding myself being calmer and clearer. And then not only, in no way is this a switch. Like that highway moment was a switch intellectually and visually. By that time I was already sober. But but um but eventually, while I was still drinking and struggling with it, the precept of no intoxicants wasn't something that I needed to take on. It's something that I just wanted to do. The precept stopped being, I need to follow these things, get rid of these things. It's not, I've been told to get rid of them. It's, no, I want to get rid of those things. I can see how unhealthy and how damaging they are. It came from me again.
Mm.
That's why they're precepts. That's why they're suggestions. That's why they're nods to what works instead of law. Because nobody can give you the thing. They can just, like the Buddhists say, point the way.
Mm.
So I spent that whole year of 2019 just working on this little by little, little by little, little by little. And by December, I got a phone call from a potential client who's a musician, a known musician. Talked to him on the phone. He said, I tour a lot, but I want to get in shape again. I'm 6'5", I'm 390 right now, and I got back pain, knee pain, you name it. And I said, okay, cool. I'm happy to work with you. I can get this done. No problem. I meet him like in 2 weeks or something like that, and it was January. He walks up to me. He's like, "Are you Cesar?" And he's a big guy. And the way he walked up was just unnerving. So I had dropped my bags and all my workout stuff to free my hands up because I thought he was going to attack me or something, just the way he was. I go, "Yeah." And he says, "I'm sorry. I'm really high. I'm really drunk. I can't work out. Can we just walk?" I go, "Let's go. Let's walk right now. We'll go." We walked around the park. And he just told me his whole life story of being in a band and blowing up in the 90s and playing amazing shows. He did Woodstock 99 and he was Howard Stern and all this crazy stuff. And I could hear his voice breaking. I could smell the alcohol on him. And I'm just listening to him. And then when the hour's done, he says, I want to get clean. I want to get sober. If you're willing to put up with this, I'd like to work with you. And the way he said it, if you're willing to put up with this, just hit me. And I hugged him. He had no idea that I was working through some stuff on my own. He ended up going for 30 days to detox. And by the time he came back, it was March 2020.
Mm.
Talk about your cosmic irony, right?
Yeah.
Now, this man, unfortunately, just got sober and is isolated. So he messages me and says, yo, man, I cannot be by myself this long. I will go nuts. Are you okay if we meet up at the park 20 feet away? You just give me some workouts to do. Yes, without question. He's got good money, so I can make some extra money there. So we do that. Mask up. I get there like 30 minutes ahead. I set up the whole workout equipment. I stay way far back and I describe the workouts to him. And we are building a rapport of friendship. And he's teaching me what he's learned in detox and in learning how to be sober. I didn't tell him any of this stuff. I still had that ego.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
And
so
I'm
you weren't
learning
you
bit by
there
bit.
there was nothing intentional about you not telling him. Like you weren't you still thought you were above all this. Like you were still ashamed of what you'd been through.
Both. I like that you said both of those. There's
Yeah.
I felt ashamed, and then the overcompensating is to think
Mm-hmm.
you're above it. That's
Yeah.
ego again, right?
Yeah. Well, no,
But I'm
I thought that
still
I thought that maybe by this point you had felt as though there was no need to tell him this, that it would somehow impact his journey of self-realization if he knew. Like
Mhm.
that's sort of what I was thinking, but still to at this point you're still struggling with ego.
Still struggling, yes. And
Yeah.
it's yeah. Think of like castles, like a sandcastle. The water's washing over it, and little
Mm-hmm.
by little it starts to dwindle. It's like that.
Yeah.
Just takes time, little by little by little. Um, on top of all that, it's his hour, so I'm not going to give him all my crap either.
Right.
But I can still ask questions. What do you do when this comes up? What do you do when that comes up? And so on and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, I want to go back to this. When I had met him that first time and he was drunk, excuse me, when I met him that first time and he was drunk, I got in the car and I called my mom
Mm.
immediately. And I told her what happened. And she goes, baby, that's your message. And I said, I gotta do something here because I gotta change. I really want to just like completely be done with drinking and so on. And she goes, good, because drinking's not your friend. Now she lives 3,000 miles away. She barely knows my life here. I said, I know. And then she says, neither is cocaine. And I'm like rocked because how the hell does she know this? And
Mm-hmm.
I didn't say anything. I didn't say a word when she said that. I was quiet. And she goes, I'm your mom. You know, I know. Jeez, man. Let's fast forward back to March, April or so. And I'm asking him these questions and we're learning about each other and we're getting along really well because he's a musician. He plays in this big popular band and like he knows all about music. You know, we just love that stuff. And I'm learning from him just as well. Some point in April, I am reading this book by the Dalai Lama. It's in the morning, I'm sitting there reading this book. And nothing in particular spoke directly to me. Just in reading the process that the Dalai Lama was talking about independent origin, how nothing is of independent origin. We call it shunyata. It just hit me. And it felt like this loud clap went off in my mind. Like someone clapped their hand in my head. And it just shocked me like electric shock. And then immediately it felt like in my mind, someone hugged me. I put the book down and I meditated. And from there I said, all right, something's different here. The Buddha has this really good line where someone asked him, what is self-realization about? They ask him enlightenment, but I changed it to self-realization because I'm disinterested whether I'm enlightened or reach nirvana or not. I'm disinterested in that sort of stuff. But self-realization is a growing thing. I choose to use those words. He said, what is it like? And he says, it starts off like a drop, which becomes a puddle, which at some point becomes a lake, or a pond, and then a lake. And then at some point, as an offstream, becomes a small stream. And then at some point, that becomes a river. And that river becomes a raging river. And then eventually, there's a waterfall. That sitting moment felt like a waterfall to me.
Mm.
And I say, okay, let's practice sobriety here. And I went 9 full months of just clear headed sobriety. At that time, it was the longest I'd been sober since I was 14. And like everything, especially as a person who's an addict and just in life in general, growth is cyclical. The trees, in the fall, they shed their leaves. They grow bigger the next year. Rosebush, same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Everything in nature has that cyclical growth. So I thought to myself, I feel better now. Maybe I can just drink casually. But I couldn't.
You tried?
So I kept drinking more again. I tried. Oh yeah, I tried. And to maybe cut this story short, I tried like 5 more times. Like,
Okay. Okay.
and
Got to do
it
that
just
research, man.
got
You got to make
it.
sure. Peer
You got,
reviewed.
I love that. That's such a great answer. It's such a great response.
Yeah.
And I kept thinking like, okay, we can try again. We can try again. We try again. And that sounds counterproductive, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that listening to this story, someone's expects me to be like, I'm done and I was done forever.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure some people, I know people have done that. That's just not me. It's not my case. And I'm not going to compare. Compare is the thief of joy. So I'm not going
Mm.
to do that.
Yes.
And I spent my time trial and erroring this over and over again, lean into the error part, right? Every time I did and failed at it, quote unquote, failed, I was kind to myself about it. There was no, oh, I'm a failure. I sucked at this. It was always, okay, you are doing better than you've done before, Cesar. And I only could be that kind because those thoughts that would tell me those nasty things instead, I now knew weren't me. I now knew that I was more than my thoughts from the meditation, from the this, from the that. And that would go on. At first, it was 9 months, and then it went to like 11 months of just straight clarity, sobriety. And then it went to like, 13 months and whatever. And I got to a point where the the clarity of who I am became more valuable than the thought of just trying to see if I can live a normal life as a drinker or whatever.
Mm.
I'm clear in this everyday life now. I'm at 2 years. I went from like 13 months,
Mm-hmm.
and mathematically, statistically, it would the next span should have been like 16, 17 months. But now I'm at 2 years, and this feels so different than it's ever felt than the other ones felt.
So what's valuable to you with that clarity? Like what keeps you coming back to that? What keeps you removing the layers that want you to try something else in order to find that and keep that clarity?
Peace, internal calm.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is, more than anything else. All of those trial and errors before, there wasn't calm there still. There was the pond, there was the lake, there was
Mm-hmm.
the stream, there was the
Mm-hmm.
river. Once there was these gradual moments. But at some point after the waterfall, you follow that water through, the water is just chilling.
What if it's not the water? What if it's the calmness of the water?
Fair. Yes. So yes. So I am the water that happens to be calm.
Mm. And to me, it was explained to me one time that I don't want to be the water. I want to be the calmness of the water.
Mm.
You
Interesting.
know,
Interesting.
the
I do.
force or the lack of
Mm-hmm.
force. You know, if
Mm-hmm.
we're talking about
Mm-hmm.
Buddhist, and you mentioned that it's about taking things away, right?
Yeah.
To be left
Yeah.
with the force that is the water.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And these are the sort of conversations that I love because no one's incorrect. Everyone's incomplete because we're all talking about little pieces of here and there, right?
Mm,
So everyone's accurate and also speaking about a section of it.
mm.
For me,
We are collectively
there's
all
no
parts of, sorry, collectively we are all parts of the universe trying to figure itself out.
absolutely. We are
Yeah,
part of this cosmic origami. If you
yeah.
think about origami, you look at the wings of it, one side and the other side. Imagine you are the smallest microbe sitting on one side of the wing. If you can see that other wing, it's going to look like it is separate. But the moment that origami is unfolded and flattened out, one piece of paper still.
Mm,
That's what we are in this society. That's what we are in this universe. It's just a mini fold of the non-two-ness of something.
mm.
Not one, by the way, because one implies an ending. It's just non-two-ness. It's an eternal continuum of no two things. I know it's very heady, dude. It's very heady. Very, very heady.
That
And but here's the
if that's
weirdest.
not written in an ancient text somewhere 2,000 years from now, it will be ancient and it'll be your book.
Let's hope so. I would like that.
Yeah.
But that's who we are. That's what we are. That's exactly what we are.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't disagree with you, and you are not incorrect whatsoever. And, not but, I see it as being the ocean because calm or raging is a form to take, where water is formless. I see it that way.
Mm.
Again, there's no wrong answer because you have to find what brings you the peace, right?
Mm-hmm.
As the Buddha says. I see it in that manner. I am the screen onto which the movie of life is projected. I'm not the movie. I am the gold into which it takes the frame of a ring, of a necklace. Now I get to understand I'm a conscious being having a human experience. And the more I practice making those choices, the better I get at it.
Mm.
And I get to make the points of realizing that my thoughts are not me, they're mere t shirts I can choose to wear. And now I have a closet full of t shirts from which I can choose. So why not wear the shirt that looks best on you? At some point, as a musician, I was sober, playing shows, not feeling fulfilled with it. And I had met my current partner now, my partner Foster. And I tell you, I stumbled upon the best person in the whole world for me. She is phenomenal. She's sober by choice. She's clear-headed. She is a powerhouse. They could bottle her energy and charge a Tesla with it. And what's more is that she gave me space to be the best version of myself. But I didn't know exactly what to do with my music. I had been trying since I was 16 years old. By this time, I was 34.
Mm-hmm.
And most musicians who blow up are not 34 years old. And I didn't ever feel fully comfortable with being a musician either. But I just kept doing it because it was what I got, it's what I had. But nonetheless, I'm reading all this spiritual guff, for lack of a better term. And I found Joseph Campbell and I realized, whoa, this guy is on something. Like, not like on something. He's like on to something. He's got his thumb tapped into something really good here. Very beautiful. Top of 2024. Totally sober. Now I'm just seeking, who am I? Where am I going? And I'm with my partner Foster. I go to this Joseph Campbell roundtable. And the speaker there, his name is Rebecca Armstrong. She knew Campbell for about 2 decades. Not only did she know him, she grew up in the house that he would stay in when he would travel giving lectures. So not just like, oh, my family hung out with him once in a no. You're going to breakfast and cuz is sitting there in boxer shorts and a t-shirt reading the newspaper. Like,
Mm-hmm.
back to the other story. I'm going to this event. This woman knew Joseph Campbell for all these years. Campbell passed away 2 years before I was born, so I never got to meet him. And she's talking. She's having a conversation. She's giving this beautiful talk about what Campbell would have thought about the world at this time, in this day and age. And then she's finished, and it's fantastic. She says, any questions? This lady raises her hand, says a compliment, sits down. This man raises his hand, asks a question. There's a bit of a dialogue. He sits down. I raise my hand, and I mention some of the stuff she said that resonate with me symbolically. And I went through a kind of a stream of consciousness in the same way I've done here. And she says, stop right there. She turns to the audience. I'm saying this as humbly as possible. As I'm saying this as humble as possible. She turns to the audience and she says, do you see what he just did? He took the symbol, found the metaphor in the story, applied it to himself, applied it to the world, and now he's practicing it in the world by naming things after it. It was I named my band after this symbol that she had brought up. She says, that's genius. You, sir, are a genius. And you should be standing up here. Just blew me away in that way. I had no desire to be a speaker, and I don't think of that. So I didn't think of that sort of stuff. She says, if you're interested, I would love to connect with you. So we did. And from there, she had these sessions with me and kind of taught me like how to speak the best way and who I am. And then I did some studying myself as well. And then started, I booked a talk for my own self. I rented a place out, invited 30 of my friends. One of them was that musician that I know, who and I are great friends, which, by the way, he is now 6 years sober, I want to say. I forget. And he's in the best shape of his life.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of my best friends. I love him to death. And he came to the event. 30 people come to the event. I put up the talk. I built a talk that I wanted to talk about. My partner, Foster, she was a director for a long time. She went to NYU, and so she filmed it. We cut up some clips of the video, and I started shopping them out. And that's how I became a public speaker. And then I started recognizing, oh, meditation. I've already taught people for 9 years how to box and how to understand their mind better, because boxing is 90% mental. This won't take much of a transition for me to make this adjustment. So I had spent all that time with those Buddhist monks. They taught me so much about Buddhism and meditation. And then I went and got a certification at Rice University for mindfulness. And now I also teach meditation one-on-one to people,
Beautiful.
or in groups or whatever. I've built this practice called growth mindfulness. How can we become deeper rooted in who we are and then grow our output? Because both should exist in this world.
Yeah. Cesar, where can people find you?
You can find me at CesarCardona.com, and I have a podcast as well with my partner called Beauty in the Break. It is called Beauty in the Break because we talk about moments in lives that break us and the beautiful things that occur and blossom afterwards, which I'm hoping in season 2 we can have you and your partner on as well, my friend.
We're looking forward to that email. On the edge of my seat.
Fantastic.
Cesar, thanks so much for joining me today. Thank you for sharing your experiences with our community, and take good care, my friend.
Thank you for having me.
Hold up. If this hit home or made you think, help us get these stories out there. Smash that like button, drop a comment, and before you go, check out another episode. The more you engage, the more the algorithm shares these voices with the people who need to hear them. Big shout out to SEIU West, our official equipment sponsor, improving the lives of working people and their families and leading the way to a more just and humane society. Find their link in the show notes.
Say, this is Hard Knocks Talks.